Captain Lee Taemin stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and stared at the massive alien ships blocking their path. The human exploration vessel had been traveling to the Kepler 442 system for 3 months. Now, just at the edge of the system, enormous dark shapes waited for them like silent guardians. "Sir, we're getting a transmission," said Park So-young from her position at the communication station. Her hands moved quickly over the control panel. "It's coming through on all our frequencies at once." Lee Taemin walked closer to her station. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. His crew of 43 men and women had been expecting to find new planets, maybe some signs of life. They had not expected to find an alien fleet waiting for them. "Put it through," he ordered. The main screen flickered and showed a tall, thin creature with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Its voice was clear and spoke perfect Korean. "Human vessel, you will stop your engines and prepare to be scanned. I am Kethvar of the Valdris Hegemony. You have entered restricted space." Dr. Kim Dong-ho, the ship's scientist who studied alien life, stepped forward. His eyes were wide with excitement and fear. "Captain, this is incredible. First contact with an intelligent species." The alien continued speaking, now switching to perfect English. "We have been watching your species for 50 of your years. We have studied your languages, your culture, and your history from the signals you broadcast into space." Lee Taemin felt a cold feeling in his stomach. If aliens had been watching Earth for 50 years, why were they only making contact now? "This is Captain Lee Taemin of the United Earth ship Defiance," he said to the screen. "We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship with other intelligent species." Kethvar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace? Your species knows nothing of peace. You have fought over 700 wars in the past century alone. You destroy your own planet's environment while creating weapons that could kill all life on your world." Park So-young looked at her captain with worry in her eyes. She had served with Lee Taemin for 5 years and had never seen him look so serious. The alien spoke again. "Your species has been placed under quarantine by the Galactic Council of Civilized Worlds. Earth and your solar system are restricted areas. No human ships may leave your home system." "Quarantine?" Lee Taemin felt anger rising in his chest. "By whose authority?" "By the authority of 847 civilized species who have learned to live in peace," Kethvar replied. "The Council maintains order across this galaxy. Species who prove too violent or warlike are contained until they learn better ways." Dr. Kim Dong-ho spoke quietly to the captain. "Sir, their ships are enormous. Our scans show technology far beyond anything we have. Their vessels appear to be phasing in and out of normal space." Lee Taemin nodded. He had already noticed that some of the alien ships seemed to flicker and become transparent before becoming solid again. Whatever technology they used was far ahead of human science. "What happens if we refuse this quarantine?" Lee Taemin asked the alien. Kethvar's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "Then you will be pacified. The Council has peaceful methods of ensuring dangerous species do not threaten galactic stability. We have successfully guided 847 species to peaceful ways of life." The way the alien said guided made Lee Taemin's skin crawl. He had a feeling that many species had not chosen to be guided willingly. "I need to contact Earth Command," Lee Taemin said. "My government must hear this message." "You may send your message," Kethvar agreed. "The Council wishes to be fair. Your leaders have 30 of your days to accept our protection. If they refuse, we will take necessary action to protect the galaxy from human aggression." The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent. Park So-young immediately began working to send a message back to Earth. It would take weeks for the signal to reach home, traveling at the speed of light. "Captain," Dr. Kim Dong-ho said quietly, "we need to learn everything we can about these aliens while we're here. This could be the most important moment in human history." Lee Taemin agreed. He ordered his crew to begin detailed scans of the EOR alien vessels while staying far enough away to avoid provoking them. The Valdris ships were unlike anything in human imagination. They were smooth and curved with no visible weapons or engines, yet they moved through space as easily as fish swimming through water. Meanwhile, at Earth Command headquarters, Admiral Choi Hee-jin received the message from the Defiance. She had been expecting news of new planets or possible mining sites. Instead, she found herself reading the most frightening report in human history. The Admiral immediately called an emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council. Within hours, military leaders, scientists, and government officials gathered in the secure meeting room deep beneath the Swiss Alps. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Choi began, "we are no longer alone in the universe. Unfortunately, our new neighbors want to keep us locked in our own backyard." She played the recorded message from Kethvar. The room remained silent as the alien's words sank in. When the message ended, President Yoon Jae-sung of the United Earth Federation stood up. "How many ships do they have?" the president asked. "Admiral," Choi checked her reports. "Captain Lee Taemin counted at least 50 vessels in the immediate area. Our deep space telescopes have detected more ships positioned around our entire solar system. It appears we are completely surrounded." Chief of Staff Nam Ki-woo leaned forward in his chair. "Sir, we should consider accepting their offer of protection. If their technology is as advanced as it appears, resistance would be suicide." President Yoon shook his head. "Humanity has never accepted imprisonment, no matter how politely it's offered. We fought for freedom from kings and emperors on Earth. We won't surrender our freedom to alien overlords now." Admiral Choi smiled grimly. "I hoped you would say that, sir. I recommend we authorize Protocol Omega." Several people around the table looked confused. Protocol Omega was one of Earth's most classified defense plans, known only to a few dozen people. "What is Protocol Omega?" asked Dr. Park Jin-hee, the Federation's chief science advisor. Admiral Choi stood up and walked to a secured computer terminal. She entered several passwords and placed her hand on a scanner. The wall screen lit up with classified documents. "Protocol Omega is humanity's final contingency plan," she explained. "For the past 20 years, we have been preparing for the possibility of encountering hostile alien species. We assumed that any aliens we met would have better technology than us." The screen showed images of hidden facilities throughout the solar system, military bases on asteroids, weapon platforms disguised as space stations, and research facilities in the outer planets. "We cannot match alien technology ship for ship," Admiral Choi continued, "but we can make the cost of conquering humanity so high that our enemies will think twice." President Yoon studied the information on the screen. "How long do we have to prepare?" "The aliens gave us 30 days, Admiral Choi replied. "But I recommend we use every moment. If we're going to fight for human freedom, we need to show these aliens that humanity is not as helpless as they believe." Back in space, Captain Lee Taemin continued to observe the alien fleet. His ship's sensors had detected energy readings unlike anything in human technology. The Valdris ship seemed to draw power directly from space itself. Park So-young approached him with a worried expression. "Captain, I've been monitoring their communications. They're not just watching us. They have ships positioned throughout human space, Mars, Jupiter, even near Earth itself." Lee Taemin felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. His exploration mission had become humanity's first glimpse of a larger, more dangerous universe. The aliens claimed to represent hundreds of species, all united under their council's rule of enforced peace. "Sir," Dr. Kim Dong-ho called from his station. "I've been analyzing their ship designs. The technology appears to be thousands of years ahead of ours, but there's something strange about it." "What do you mean?" Lee Taemin asked. "It's too similar across all their ships," the doctor explained, "as if they all use exactly the same technology, with no innovation or improvement. That's unusual for a civilization that spans multiple species." Lee Taemin thought about this observation. On Earth, human technology constantly changed and improved. Different countries and companies competed to create better designs. But these aliens seemed to use identical technology across their entire fleet. "Maybe that's what happens when you have enforced peace," he said quietly. "No competition means no reason to innovate." As the hours passed, more alien ships arrived in the system. The Valdris fleet grew larger and more threatening. Captain Lee Taemin knew that the Defiance could not escape if the aliens decided to attack. His ship was alone, surrounded by enemies, carrying news that would change humanity forever. He looked out at the stars and wondered if humans would still be free to explore them in 30 days. The galaxy was much larger and more dangerous than anyone on Earth had imagined. But if there was one thing humans had always been good at, it was surviving against impossible odds. The message was sent. Now Earth would have to decide whether to fight for freedom or accept a cage, no matter how comfortable the aliens claimed it would be. 3 months had passed since the aliens delivered their ultimatum to Earth. The United Earth Federation had spent every day preparing for what many believed would be humanity's final stand. Deep space telescopes showed more alien ships arriving in the outer solar system each week. The blockade was becoming stronger. Commander Han Min-seo stood in the control room of Serenity Base, humanity's largest military station on the moon. Through the reinforced windows, she could see Earth hanging in the black sky like a blue marble. It looked peaceful from here, but she knew that down on the planet's surface every nation was working desperately to prepare defenses. "Commander, we're detecting a large fleet approaching from the direction of Pluto," reported Lieutenant Bei Yejin from her sensor station. "Ships are much bigger than anything we've seen before." Han Min-seo moved to look at the tactical display. New contacts were appearing on the screen, marked in red to show they were hostile. These ships were enormous, some of them larger than Earth's biggest cities. "How many?" she asked. "At least 200 vessels, ma'am. They're moving in perfect formation." Han Min-seo felt her stomach tighten with worry. The alien fleet approaching was larger than all of Earth's military forces combined. She opened a communication channel to Earth Command. "Earth Command, this is Serenity Base. We have a large alien fleet approaching Pluto, requesting instructions." Admiral Choi Hyejin's voice came through the speakers immediately. "Serenity Base, maintain observation and prepare to record everything. Do not take any aggressive action unless directly attacked." Far from the solar system, in a region of space between galaxies, the leaders of the Galactic Council gathered to discuss the human problem. The meeting took place on a massive space station that drifted in the empty darkness between star systems. Representatives from hundreds of species attended the emergency session. Council Overseer Vex Thylon, a being made of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell, spoke to the assembled delegates. "The human species continues to refuse our generous offer of protection. Their government has sent messages throughout their system, calling for resistance against Council authority." The representative of the Corvan Empire, a warrior species with gray skin and sharp teeth, stood up from his seat. "Overseer, my people suggest we demonstrate our power. Show these humans what happens to species who defy the Council." Vex Thylon's energy form pulsed with consideration. "Very well. Order the demonstration fleet to destroy one of their outer planets, something uninhabited but visible. Let them see the fate that awaits defiant species." The order was sent across space faster than light, using communication technology that humans had not yet discovered. Within hours, the alien fleet near Pluto began to prepare their weapons. Back on Earth, President Yoon Jae-sung sat in the emergency cabinet meeting room. The past 3 months had aged him 10 years. Dark circles under his eyes showed how little sleep he had been getting. Around the table sat the most important people in human government and military. "The latest reports show alien ships throughout our solar system," said Defense Minister Shin Bo-ra. "They have positioned themselves at every major planet and moon. We are completely surrounded." Chief of Staff Nam Ki-woo spread out a holographic display showing the solar system. Red dots marked alien positions, and there were hundreds of them. "Sir, I must again recommend that we accept their terms. The cost of resistance will be the extinction of our species." President Yoon looked around the table at his advisors. Half of them agreed with Nam Ki-woo. The other half believed that freedom was worth any price. "Dr. Lim Soo-jin," the president said to a woman sitting quietly in the corner, "is Protocol Omega really ready?" Dr. Lim Soo-jin was Earth's leading expert on advanced physics. For the past 3 months, she had been working 20 hours a day on humanity's secret weapon project. She looked tired, but determined. "Mr. President, Protocol Omega is as ready as we can make it in the time we had. Every major human settlement ship and station is now connected through quantum entanglement fields. The network is active and stable. Nam Kiwu looked confused. Quantum entanglement? What does that have to do with defense? Dr. Lim Soo-jin stood up and activated a different holographic display. This one showed a complex web of energy connecting every human facility in the solar system. We have weaponized quantum mechanics itself, she explained. Every human installation is now connected at the subatomic level. If the aliens attack any part of our civilization, the quantum resonance will spread throughout the entire network. What does that mean in practical terms? Asked the president. It means that if they try to destroy us piece by piece, they will face consequences they cannot predict or control. The quantum fields will react in ways that even we don't fully understand. Before anyone could ask more questions, alarms began sounding throughout the building. Admiral Choi Hye-jin's voice came through the emergency communication system. Mr. President, the alien fleet at Pluto is powering up weapons. We believe they are about to attack. On Serenity Base, Commander Han Min-seo watched in horror as the alien ship surrounded Pluto. The dwarf planet was small and cold with no human settlements, but it was still part of humanity's solar system. All stations, record everything, she ordered her crew. The people of Earth need to see this. The alien weapons did not fire energy beams or missiles. Instead, they created fields of distorted gravity around Pluto. The small planet began to stretch and bend as if it were made of soft clay instead of rock and ice. Lieutenant Bei Ye-jin gasped at her station. Commander, the gravitational readings are off the charts. They're tearing Pluto apart with artificial gravity fields. Within minutes, Pluto cracked apart like an egg. Pieces of the planet scattered in all directions, creating a field of debris where a world had existed for billions of years. The demonstration was complete. The aliens had shown that they could destroy planets as easily as humans could break rocks. The alien fleet commander, a Corvan named Zarketh, broadcast a message toward Earth. His voice was harsh and threatening. Humans of Sol 3, you have seen our power. This is the fate of all who resist the Council's peace. You have 7 of your days to surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, your planet will suffer the same fate as your 9th world. The message reached Earth 30 minutes later. In the emergency cabinet room, the holographic display showed the scattered remains of what had once been Pluto. Several advisors looked sick. My God, whispered Chief of Staff Nam Ki-woo. They destroyed an entire planet in minutes. President Yoon stood up slowly. His face was pale but determined. Dr. Lim Soo-jin, if we activate Protocol Omega, what are our chances? Unknown, sir. The quantum fields will certainly react to any attack, but I cannot predict exactly how. We are entering uncharted territory in physics. Defense Minister Shinbo-ra leaned forward. Sir, even if Protocol Omega works, we're still vastly outnumbered. Their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. Maybe, said President Yoon. But they've been wrong about us before. He walked to the secure communication terminal and activated Earth's most classified intelligence network. Cultural attaché Ryu Sang-wook appeared on the screen. He was one of Earth's best experts on alien psychology and had been studying the Valdris messages for months. Ryu Sang-wook, I need to know everything about how these aliens think. What are their weaknesses? Ryu Sang-wook had been preparing for this question. Sir, after analyzing their communications and behavior patterns, I believe they suffer from a critical flaw. They have been in control of the galaxy for so long that they cannot imagine being challenged effectively. Explain. They think in terms of overwhelming superiority and immediate surrender. Their entire strategy assumes that a show of force will make us give up. They cannot conceive of a species that would fight against impossible odds. President Yoon thought about this. So they expect us to be afraid. More than that, sir. They expect us to be rational. From their perspective, fighting them is so obviously suicidal that no intelligent species would attempt it. Then we give them what they expect, President Yoon decided. We let them think we're afraid and desperate. Meanwhile, we finish preparing Protocol Omega. Over the next several days, Earth's government sent messages that seemed to show human panic and confusion. They appeared to be arguing among themselves about whether to surrender. The messages were carefully crafted to make the aliens believe that humanity was close to giving up. Cultural attaché Ryu Sang-wook made sure that the aliens intercepted communications about something called the Soul Gambit. The messages suggested that it was a desperate negotiation strategy, humanity's last attempt to bargain for better terms of surrender. The alien interceptors exactly as the humans hoped. Council Overseer Vex Thylon received reports that the humans were preparing to negotiate. The aliens believed that the destruction of Pluto had broken human resistance. Excellent, Vex Thylon told the Council Assembly. The humans are proving to be more reasonable than their initial defiance suggested. Soon they will accept our guidance like so many species before them. But in the outer regions of the solar system, Captain Oh Young-min of the stealth reconnaissance ship Silent Arrow was gathering intelligence that would terrify anyone who saw it. The Council's massive armada arrived in the Sol system like a dark storm cloud blotting out the stars. Over 10,000 ships from dozens of alien species formed a perfect sphere around the inner planets. From Earth, the alien fleet looked like a second ring of stars that moved with deadly purpose. Fleet Commander Zarketh of the Corvan Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Victory. The massive warship was 5 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to sterilize entire planets. Around him, screens showed the pathetic human defense fleet gathering near Earth. "How many human ships do they have?" Zarketh asked his tactical officer. "Approximately 300 vessels, Commander. Most of them are converted civilian ships with basic weapons. Their largest warship is smaller than our escort frigates." Zarketh made a sound that was the Corvan equivalent of laughter. 300 ships against 10,000. These humans are either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Admiral Choi Hyejin watched the alien fleet from the bridge of her flagship, the UES Indomitable. The human fleet looked tiny compared to the massive alien armada surrounding them. But appearances could be deceiving, and humanity had spent 3 months preparing for this moment. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Park So-young, who had been transferred from the Defiance to the flagship. "We're receiving a transmission from the alien commander." "Put it through," Admiral Choi ordered. Zarketh's fierce face appeared on the main screen. His sharp teeth gleamed as he spoke in perfect English. "Human Admiral, I am Fleet Commander Zarketh. You have 6 of your hours to surrender unconditionally. Your ships will power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your planet will submit to Council authority. If you refuse, we will demonstrate why the Council has maintained peace in this galaxy for 50,000 years. Admiral Choi stood straight and proud. "Commander Zarketh, this is Admiral Choi Hyejin of the United Earth Federation. Humanity rejects your ultimatum. We will not surrender our freedom to anyone." Zarketh's eyes narrowed. "Admiral, you command 300 ships against 10,000. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. Your resistance is not heroic. It is suicide." "Perhaps," Admiral Choi replied calmly. "But humanity has always chosen freedom over safety. We would rather die free than live as slaves." The transmission ended, and Admiral Choi turned to her crew. "All ships prepare for battle. Today we find out what humanity is truly made of." Deep beneath the surface of Mars, Colonel Kwon Tae-ho monitored the quantum field generators that humanity had spent years building in secret. The Mars Defense Corps had transformed the entire planet into a massive weapon system, but the aliens had no idea what was hidden beneath the red soil. "Colonel," reported Sergeant Song Woo-bin from his control station, "all quantum field generators are online and stable. The network extends throughout the asteroid belt and connects to every human facility in the system." Colonel Kwon nodded grimly. "The aliens think they're facing a primitive species with basic weapons. They have no idea what we've really built. On Earth's moon, the massive installation known as Serenity Base had been transformed into something far more dangerous than a military outpost." Dr. Park Jin-ae, the director of the classified Aurora project, stood in the control room that had been carved deep into the lunar rock. "Dr. Park," called Engineer Song Woo-bin, "the lunar mass driver is fully charged. We can destabilize the gravity fields of any star system within 50 light-years. Dr. Park Jin-ae looked at the readings on her screens. Humanity had turned their moon into a weapon capable of affecting the fundamental forces of physics across interstellar distances. It was the most dangerous device ever created by any species. "Stand by for my command," she said. "We fire only when the aliens show us what they really intend to do to humanity." Back on the flagship Indomitable, Admiral Choi received reports from throughout the solar system. Lieutenant Bae Ye-jin, now serving as her intelligence officer, coordinated information from dozens of hidden observation posts. "Admiral, the aliens are moving into attack formation. They're surrounding every human world and major facility. This isn't just an attack. They're preparing for complete occupation." Admiral Choi studied the tactical displays. The alien fleet was so large that they could attack multiple targets simultaneously. Even if humanity somehow destroyed half their ships, there would still be more aliens than humans. "Any word from our reconnaissance ships?" she asked. "Captain Lee Taemin reports that alien boarding parties are preparing to seize all human facilities intact. They want to preserve our technology and infrastructure for study." Admiral Choi smiled grimly. The aliens' desire to capture human technology would be their first mistake. They had no idea that every human facility was connected through quantum entanglement fields that would react violently to any intrusion. Dr. Lim Soo-jin's voice came through the communication system from her laboratory deep beneath the Swiss Alps. "Admiral, the quantum resonance network is fully active. Every human installation is now connected at the subatomic level. If the aliens board any of our facilities, the quantum feedback will spread throughout their entire fleet." "How exactly will it affect them?" Admiral Choi asked. "Unknown," Dr. Lim replied honestly. "We're using physics that we barely understand. The quantum fields will react to any attempt to control or destroy human technology, but the specific effects are impossible to predict." Admiral Choi took a deep breath. Humanity was about to bet everything on a weapon based on theoretical physics and desperate hope. "All human ships," she broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Choi Hye-jin. Today we face impossible odds against an enemy that believes we are primitive and weak. They think our resistance is pointless because they have never faced a species that refuses to surrender." She paused, looking out at the massive alien fleet that surrounded them. "For 50,000 years, the Galactic Council has maintained their version of peace by forcing species to submit or die. They have crushed 847 civilizations and believe they will crush us too. But they have never faced humanity before." Throughout the human fleet, crews listened to their admiral's words. On civilian ships converted to warships, volunteers who had never expected to fight in space prepared to give their lives for human freedom. "We may be outnumbered 10,000 to 1, Admiral Choi continued, "but we have something they cannot understand: the determination to remain free no matter the cost. Today we show the galaxy that some species will never bow to tyranny." The 6-hour ultimatum expired, and Fleet Commander Zarketh gave the order to attack. Alien ships throughout the solar system began moving toward human positions, their weapons charging with deadly energy. But as the aliens approached their targets, Dr. Lim Soo-jin detected something in the quantum fields that made her blood run cold. "Admiral," she called urgently. "The quantum network is reacting more strongly than expected. The aliens' approach is causing resonance cascades throughout the system." "What does that mean?" Admiral Choi demanded. "It means our trap is bigger than we thought. The quantum fields aren't just connected to human technology. They're starting to interact with the fundamental structure of spacetime itself." Captain Lee Taemin, now commanding a squadron of converted mining ships, watched the alien fleet approach. His sensors detected energy readings unlike anything in human experience, but he also noticed something the aliens had missed. "All ships, this is Captain Lee. Be ready to target their dimensional stabilizers. Our intelligence suggests that's how they phase in and out of normal space." The first alien ships reached the outer human defenses, and the Battle of Sol began in earnest. But as the aliens opened fire, something unexpected happened. Their energy weapons struck human ships and triggered massive feedback pulses through the quantum network. The pulses spread faster than light itself. reaching every connected human facility instantly. The feedback energy was absorbed by the quantum field generators and amplified beyond all calculations. Dr. Park Jin-ae watched in amazement as her instruments detected quantum distortion spreading throughout the solar system. All stations. We have massive quantum resonance building throughout the network. The alien weapons are charging our systems beyond maximum capacity. On the Corvin flagship, Zarketh received disturbing reports from his fleet commanders. Sir, our weapons are causing strange energy readings throughout the human system. Some of our ships are reporting dimensional instabilities. Impossible, Zarketh replied. These humans barely understand basic physics. They cannot affect our dimensional technology. But as more alien ships opened fire, the quantum resonance cascades grew stronger. What had begun as humanity's desperate defensive measure was becoming something far more dangerous, a reaction that could affect the basic laws of physics throughout the solar system. Admiral Choi realized that humanity's trap was working, but not in any way they had expected. All ships prepare for Phase 2, target the alien dimensional stabilizers and let the quantum fields do the rest. The first human counterattack began as converted mining ships launched modified mining charges at the alien fleet. The charges were designed to disrupt the quantum fields that the aliens used to phase between dimensions. When the charges detonated near alien ships, the results were spectacular. The Battle of Sol exploded into chaos as humanity's quantum trap activated throughout the solar system. Half of the Galactic Council's invasion fleet found themselves caught in dimensional bubbles, their ships phasing uncontrollably between normal space and other dimensions. What had seemed like an easy conquest was becoming the Council's worst nightmare. Fleet Commander Zarketh screamed orders from his flagship as he watched his mighty armada fall apart around him. All ships, retreat to safe distance. These humans have some kind of dimensional weapon. But it was too late. The quantum resonance fields that humanity had secretly built throughout their solar system were reacting to every alien weapon fired. Each energy blast from Council ships fed more power into the network, making it stronger and more unpredictable. Major John Hae-won sat in the cockpit of her experimental fighter, the Phoenix Wing, as she led humanity's counterattack. The small ship used reverse-engineered alien technology that allowed it to tunnel through quantum space, appearing inside enemy vessels without warning. Phoenix Squadron, follow my lead, she broadcast to the other fighters. Target their dimensional stabilizers. Once those are destroyed, their ships can't control their phasing ability. The human fighters disappeared from normal space and reappeared inside the largest Council warships. Major John Hae-won materialized inside the bridge of a massive Ethon collective vessel, its crew of floating energy beings unable to comprehend how a primitive human ship had penetrated their defenses. She fired her weapons directly into the ship's dimensional control systems. The Ethon vessel immediately began phasing wildly between dimensions, its crew's screams echoing through space as their ship tore itself apart. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human fighters appeared inside Council ships like deadly ghosts. The aliens' superior technology became their weakness as humanity turned their own dimensional systems against them. On the command ship Sovereign, Dr. Kim Dong-ho analyzed the battle data streaming in from across the solar system. What he discovered would change everything humanity thought they knew about their enemies. Admiral, he called to Admiral Choi Hae-jin, I'm seeing a pattern in the alien technology failures. Their ships all use identical dimensional systems with no variation between species or ship types. Admiral Choi moved to his station. What does that mean? It means the Council has standardized their technology across hundreds of species. They have eliminated innovation and diversity in favor of conformity. That's why our quantum fields are affecting all of them equally. Admiral Choi realized the implications immediately. They've been using the same technology for so long that they've forgotten how to adapt when it fails. The battle continued to rage as more Council ships fell victim to humanity's quantum trap. But the most devastating blow came when Captain Seo Min-ho of the human dreadnought Retribution targeted the Council's command nexus with humanity's ultimate weapon. The quantum resonance torpedo was humanity's most dangerous creation. Unlike normal weapons that destroyed matter, it unraveled the bonds between subatomic particles, causing anything it hit to simply cease to exist at the quantum level. Captain Seo Min-ho had identified the Ethon Collective's flagship as the coordination center for the entire invasion fleet. The massive vessel, made of crystallized energy, served as a psychic link between all Council forces. "Target locked," reported his weapons officer. "Quantum torpedo ready to fire." "Fire," Captain Seo Min-ho ordered. The torpedo streaked across space, invisible to normal sensors but detectable by the quantum disturbances it created in the fabric of reality itself. When it struck the Ethan flagship, the results were unlike anything ever seen in galactic warfare. The crystallized energy vessel didn't explode or burn. It simply stopped existing. The quantum torpedo unraveled every particle in the massive ship, leaving nothing but empty space where a kilometer-long warship had been moments before. The psychic shockwave that resulted from the flagship's destruction rippled through the Ethon Collective's hive mind network. Every Ethon ship in the fleet suddenly lost coordination as their shared consciousness was shattered by the impossible disappearance of their command vessel. Council Overseer Vex Thylon, observing the battle from his command station between galaxies, watched in horror as his invasion fleet fell apart. Species that had never known defeat were surrendering or fleeing in panic. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his advisors. "The humans have primitive technology. They should not be able to affect our dimensional systems." His chief science advisor, an ancient being from the first species to join the council, studied the battle reports with growing alarm. "Overseer, the humans appear to have developed technology specifically designed to counter our standard systems. They have been studying us." "For how long?" "Based on the sophistication of their countermeasures, I estimate they have been preparing for this battle for decades. Perhaps since we first made contact." Vexithalon felt something he had not experienced in thousands of years: fear. The Council had ruled the galaxy through overwhelming technological superiority for 50 millennia. No species had ever successfully resisted their forces. Back in the Sol system, Fleet Admiral Kang Yuna coordinated humanity's defense from Earth Command. Reports were coming in from across the solar system showing impossible victories against overwhelming odds. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Bei Yejin from her communication station, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different Council species. The Corvan Empire is requesting immediate ceasefire terms." Admiral Kang Yuna could barely believe what she was hearing. "They're surrendering?" "Yes, ma'am. The quantum resonance cascades have disabled over half their fleet. The remaining ships are requesting permission to withdraw from the system. But not all Council forces were ready to give up. The Nexus Dominion, fanatics who believed the Council's rule was divinely ordained, regrouped their remaining ships for a final desperate attack on Earth itself." Admiral Zarketh, his flagship badly damaged but still functional, received orders directly from the Dominion's High Command. "Fleet Commander, you will break through to the human homeworld and destroy it completely. The Council's authority must not be questioned." Zarketh knew it was a suicide mission, but the alternative was to admit that the mighty Galactic Council could be defeated by a single primitive species. "All Dominion ships form up for final assault. Target the third planet." The remaining Council ships, about 1,000 vessels from the most fanatical species, began a desperate charge toward Earth. They had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. Admiral Choi Hyejin watched the enemy fleet approach on her tactical displays. Even reduced to 1,000 ships, they still outnumbered humanity's defenses 3-1. "All human ships, prepare for final battle," she broadcast. "They're coming for Earth with everything they have left." Dr. Park Jin-ae, still controlling the lunar weapon systems, detected the approaching enemy fleet. "Admiral, I have a clear shot with the mass driver. I can destabilize their entire formation." "Do it," Admiral Choi ordered. The moon itself became a weapon as the massive installation fired a concentrated beam of gravitational energy at the approaching Council fleet. The beam didn't destroy the alien ships directly. Instead, it created artificial gravity wells that pulled the tightly packed formation apart. Council ships crashed into each other as their formation collapsed. Others were pulled off course and sent spinning helplessly through space. The disciplined attack formation became a chaotic mess of tumbling vessels. Human fighters swarmed over the confused alien ships, targeting their dimensional stabilizers and power systems. Major John Heywan led the attack, her Phoenix wing appearing inside one council ship after another. "All fighters, concentrate on the command ships," she ordered. "Take out their leadership and the rest will surrender." The final battle for Earth lasted only 2 hours. When it was over, the mighty Galactic Council fleet that had come to crush humanity was either destroyed, captured, or fleeing in panic toward the outer reaches of the galaxy. Admiral Choi Hee-jin stood on the bridge of her flagship and looked out at the debris field that had once been the most powerful invasion force in galactic history. Human ships moved through the wreckage, rescuing alien survivors and securing disabled council vessels. "Status report," she requested. Communications Officer Park So-young consulted her displays. "Admiral, we've received formal surrender from 43 council species. Another 67 have requested immediate withdrawal from human space. Only the Nexus Dominion forces are still fighting, and they're retreating toward the galactic core." Admiral Choi allowed herself a moment of amazement. Humanity had not just survived the Council's attack, they had completely shattered the foundation of galactic order that had existed for 50,000 years. "Open a channel to all Council forces still in our system," she ordered. When the channel was active, Admiral Choi addressed the aliens who had come to conquer her species. "To all Council forces in the Sol system, this is Admiral Choi Hee-jin of the United Earth Federation. You came here believing that humanity was too primitive and weak to resist your authority. You were wrong." She paused, letting her words sink in across the fleet of defeated aliens. 6 months after the Battle of Seoul, Ambassador Lee Min-jung walked through the corridors of Kepler Station, a massive space facility that floated in neutral space between star systems. The station had once been the proud symbol of Galactic Council authority, where representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to maintain their version of peace. Now, many of those same chambers stood empty. The emergency session of what remained of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in 50,000 years of galactic history. Where once nearly 1,000 species had sent representatives, now less than half that number remained. The others had declared independence following humanity's victory, breaking free from Council control for the first time in their civilization's histories. Ambassador Lee Min-jung entered the main assembly hall and saw the massive changes that had taken place. The traditional seating arrangement, which placed Council founders at the center with newer species arranged in circles around them according to their status, had been completely reorganized. Now, all remaining species sat as equals in a simple, circular arrangement. At the center of the hall, in what had once been reserved for the Council Overseer's throne, sat a simple witness chair. Former Overseer Vex Thylon, his energy form now contained in a much smaller crystalline prison, waited to give testimony about the Council's crimes against galactic civilization. President Yoon Jae-sung, representing the newly formed Terran Federation, took his seat among the assembled delegates. The past 6 months had transformed him from the leader of a single world to the representative of humanity's growing interstellar presence. Human colonies were already being established in systems that had been freed from Council control. The session began with testimony from Vex Thylon himself. The former Overseer's energy form pulsed weakly as he spoke, his voice no longer carrying the authority that had once commanded the obedience of hundreds of worlds. "For 50,000 years, Vex Thylon began, the Council maintained what we called the Pax Galactica. We believed that peace could only be achieved through the elimination of conflict, and conflict could only be eliminated through absolute control." Ambassador Lee Min-jung listened carefully as the former dictator continued his confession. Around the hall, representatives from species that had lived under Council rule for millennia heard the truth about their oppression for the first time. "We identified any species that showed signs of innovation, independence, or resistance to our authority," Vex Thylon continued. "These species were classified as unstable elements and subjected to pacification procedures. Over the millennia, we pacified 847 civilizations. A delegate from the Corvan Empire, the species that had led the attack on Earth, stood up. War Chief Thakmor had replaced the defeated Tsar Keth and now represented a completely transformed Corvan government. What did pacification mean exactly? Thakmor demanded. Vexthylan's form dimmed with what might have been shame. Complete suppression of technological development, forced adoption of council-approved government systems, and the elimination of any cultural elements that promoted individual thinking or creativity. The hall erupted in angry voices as representatives realized the full scope of what had been done to their peoples. Many species had forgotten that they had once been independent, innovative civilizations before the Council's arrival. Chief Diplomat Jung Yun-Su, representing Earth's diplomatic corps, stood to address the assembly. She had spent the past 6 months traveling throughout the galaxy, meeting with species that were experiencing freedom for the first time in thousands of years. Fellow delegates, she began, we are here not to assign blame for the past, but to build a better future. Humanity proposes the creation of a new organization, the Galactic Commonwealth, where species can cooperate as equals while maintaining their sovereignty and independence. She activated a holographic display showing her proposal. Instead of the rigid hierarchy that had defined the Council, the Commonwealth would be based on voluntary cooperation and mutual benefit. Each member species would retain complete control over their internal affairs, Jung Un-Su explained. The Commonwealth would exist only to coordinate responses to threats that affect multiple species and to facilitate trade and cultural exchange. The Valdris representative, the same species that had first contacted humanity, raised one of his forearms. How can we trust that this Commonwealth will not simply become another council? How do we know that humanity will not use their military victory to impose their own version of galactic order? President Yoon Jae-sung stood to respond. Because humanity's strength comes from diversity, not conformity. On Earth, we learned that our greatest achievements came from different nations and cultures working together while maintaining their unique identities. We want to bring that same principle to the galaxy. The debate continued for days as species that had never been allowed to express independent opinions learned how to negotiate as equals. Some, like the reformed Corvan Empire, embraced the new system enthusiastically. Others, particularly those that had held positions of authority under the old council, resisted change. The Ethon Collective, what remained of them after the destruction of their flagship, struggled with the concept of individual decision-making. Their hive mind had never experienced true democracy. But the most significant moment came when delegates received news from the galaxy's outer rim regions. Captain Lee Tae-min, now Admiral of the Commonwealth Defense Force, was leading a joint fleet of human and alien vessels toward the galactic edge in response to distress calls from unexplored regions. Dr. Park So-young, serving as communications officer aboard the flagship Defiance, intercepted transmissions from beyond the known galaxy. Admiral, we're receiving messages from multiple species in the outer systems. They say they've heard about Earth's victory and are requesting assistance in overthrowing their own oppressors. Admiral Lee Tae-min studied the star charts showing the source of the transmissions. It appears the news of our victory has spread beyond the Council's territory. There are other species out there living under similar oppression. The discovery that the Galactic Council was just one of several tyrannical organizations controlling different parts of the galaxy shocked everyone. The Commonwealth's mission was expanding before it had even been formally established. Meanwhile, in the assembly hall on Kepler Station, the delegates faced their first major crisis. Intelligence reports confirmed that the Nexus Dominion, the fanatic faction that had refused to surrender after the Battle of Sol, was gathering forces in the galactic core. They were rallying species that still believed in the old ways of enforced peace through absolute control. War Chief Thakmor brought disturbing news from Corvan intelligence networks. The Dominion has declared the Commonwealth an existential threat to galactic stability. They are calling for a holy war to restore Council authority and eliminate the human infection from the galaxy. Ambassador Lee Min-jung realized that humanity's victory had not ended the conflict. It had transformed it into something much larger. We're not just fighting for human freedom anymore. We're fighting for the right of all species to determine their own destiny. the vote to establish the Galactic Commonwealth passed with overwhelming support from the assembled delegates. Even, some former Council loyalists agreed that the old system had failed and needed to be replaced. But as the delegates celebrated their historic agreement, new challenges emerged. The Nexus Dominion's gathering fleet was larger than the original invasion force that had attacked Earth. This time, they would not underestimate human capabilities. More troubling were reports from the Commonwealth Defense Force about mysterious signals from dark space between galaxies. Something vast and ancient was stirring in the cosmic void, drawn by the collapse of the 50,000-year-old Pax Galactica. Admiral Lee Tae-min stood on the bridge of the Defiance as it led a joint Commonwealth fleet toward the unknown regions beyond the galactic rim. The ship that had started this journey as a simple exploration vessel was now the flagship of the galaxy's newest alliance. Admiral, Dr. Park So-young reported from her station. We're receiving more distress calls from the outer rim. Species. We've never heard of are requesting Commonwealth assistance against something they call the Eternal Silence. Admiral Lee looked out at the stars ahead of them and wondered what other challenges awaited. Humanity had shattered the peace of the Galactic Council, but in doing so, they had awakened forces that had slumbered for millennia. The galaxy was no longer divided between the Council's rigid order and primitive species waiting for pacification. Now it was split between those who believed in freedom and cooperation, and those who would do anything to restore the old ways of control and oppression. Behind them, the Galactic Commonwealth was taking its first steps toward creating a galaxy where diversity was strength rather than weakness. Ahead of them, the unknown regions of space held new species struggling for the same freedom that humanity had fought to preserve. The Battle of Sol had ended the age of enforced peace, but it had also begun the age of chosen cooperation. For Ye, the first time in 50,000 years, the galaxy's future was not predetermined by ancient powers. It would be written by the species brave enough to fight for it.